We are the robots after all, robots. We are the robots after all.
Hey, welcome back. We're the Robots After All.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Andrew. Today's topic is going to be about Dragon Ball Z and our experience growing up with it, as well as kind of, watching it over the years.
So I'll start off. I'll say that it was released in 1989 in Japan, and then in America a while later in 96. And it ran until 98, and then they kind of canceled it due to poor reception, and they brought it back when Toonami picked it up, but it came back the same year. So it ended in 98, came back a few months later in 98, and then Toonami ran it on Cartoon Network. And I remember when I first saw it, it was when it first came out, and it was airing super early in the morning. I think it was like a Saturday morning. And I remember getting up early with one of my friends to see it at like 7 o'clock. And it was just like this event. I'd sleep over his house, we'd wake up, and we'd see this cartoon that we'd never seen before. And I don't even know if we really knew like the proper terminology of like what we were looking at, at the time, if it was even, we were using the word anime or Japanimation or whatever, what have you. But I remember it one day we woke up and it was Princess Diana funeral. And I briefly mentioned this story to you, and we were so like upset because we didn't get to see DBZ. And after that, we didn't see it forever until Toonami picked it up, I don't think. But that's my kind of origin story with Dragon Ball Z.
That's pretty cool. So it kind of almost built up its own mystique for you because you got a taste of it and you're like, this is so cool. And then it disappeared and then kind of came back in a format where you could actually kind of watch it sequentially.
Yeah, when Toonami brought it back. And then, I mean, Toonami really, really hammered it on the animation scene with that segment. And I don't think, what was the airtime? What didn't it air super late? It like started at midnight or
I think what they were doing was they had like a regular time during the day, like in the afternoon for like after school, and then later at night. Because I remember at the time I was actually working at Newport Creamery actually.
Oh boy.
And I would come home from work and I would catch the episodes at night. But I know that they were also they were airing like after school kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I think they were doing two different time slots. But you know what? We were talking about this the other day, and I was like, I actually don't remember when I got into Dragon Ball Z, but it had to have been at Toonami, the Toonami time frame. It had to have been, yeah, because those are my earliest memories of watching it is after school, and then when I'd come home from work like really late night. So that had to have been.
I do remember catching it at night. And I don't know if they aired. Was there any attempt for them to air the uncut versions or no? I can't remember.
I don't think so, because the first time I ever saw the uncut versions were, our mutual friend who was from Japan, Kunio.
Oh, right.
He actually had like VHS like dubs of, or not dubs, but recordings from Japan or whatever they brought. And I remember being like, "Whoa, there's blood and all that stuff."
Yeah, I don't know if like what's funny about that, just as a side note, that remember he used to translate a lot of mangas online, and like I don't know if he got money for that, but it just
oh wow, I didn't even know that.
I remember him doing that a lot. He would just translate, and I totally forgot about that. The early days of like dial-up internet or something. But yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if those were bootlegs or he actually imported them, because I remember, to segue, the bootleg scene was insane for DBZ because obviously we weren't getting things at a regular time. I mean, it came to America, like 7 years after the fact that it came out in Japan. So I remember going to local conventions in Rhode Island, like comic conventions, and there'd be just one booth of this guy with just tons of bootlegs. And then he'd just have like these cheap stickers that had like, he must have had like a printer that would print the VHS sticker. And then it had like a little picture of like Frieza on it, or like Cooler, or like some random like enemy or Goku. And you'd see it and be like, what? I've never seen this before. It's so exciting. You
Yeah,
see like a bootleg, and you're like, what? I'm gonna buy one of these, and you get it, and the quality is all crap, and it's like, it's just like it's probably been recorded on a million times or something. But
yeah.
it was
That
it was exciting to see it, and I can't remember. I remember buying like one or two, but I don't remember. I think they were part of the Frieza saga that hadn't come out yet or something.
that actually hits like one of the most important um points that I thought of when we talked about like bringing this topic up is like we were stuck on the Frieza saga for so long. You know, when you were talking about getting into it or whatever, you kind of got that taste. You didn't get to see like a full story. So probably the first time you saw a full story would have been like, you know, Saiyan Saga, Frieza Saga.
Yeah.
And and so to see those like VHSs, you know, and characters you hadn't seen before, or whatever, it's just like gold because it was
Oh
like,
man,
whoa, like something outside of Frieza.
it was one of the highlights of my being a teenager or however old I was. But yeah, that was really exciting. But yeah, I remember them just repeating the same episodes. You'd see reruns on all the time, and I think that's partly why I didn't really see much after the Frieza saga because I mean you have obviously Android and Cell and Boo, and I don't remember. I remember seeing like it cut up. I'd see little bits of it here and there, but I never really saw too much after that.
Yeah, they actually within the Frieza saga, they would get up to a certain point with like whatever episodes they had, and then they would start it over again. So like you wouldn't even get all the way to the end of the Frieza saga, and then they would recycle it. Like we were trying to see the end of the Frieza saga, and we would just get up to a certain point, and it was like just getting good. Where like Goku and Frieza are like, you know, Frieza's in final form, they're going at it, and like, and then it's just like, sorry kids, we don't have the rest of these episodes. They go back to Raditz, and you're like, I literally have to watch this entire thing over again.
I
I
remember
remember,
that. I remember
yeah,
that so well of like getting to that point. You're like, you've got to be kidding me. It's this is finally getting good.
yeah,
Not like hammering all the filler episodes. It's like we're getting to the action finally, and then they're like, oh, okay, back to Raditz. Yeah, that drove me crazy.
brutal.
I do remember that. But I remember
Yeah.
seeing that show when I did see it for the first time. It goes back to like our last episode. It's like nothing you've ever seen before. I mean, the animation's is better. You have violence, cool action, like interesting enough story for a kid to be like engrossed in, you know? And I don't know, just it was just something that was totally new and different and edgy. And I think the fact that it even had like a continuing story was kind of new for animated shows then. Because I can't
Totally.
really think of a show back then that was continuous. I mean, you had shows that had like little mini series that continued, but can you think
Yeah,
of
I mean, no, I can't. And you just touched on again another thing that I think makes the show really special is the fact that like there's this continuous world. Like it's when we think about like video game world building, like the show was like so good at world building throughout the series where um you know, from one saga to the next, and even like the way like Dragon Ball starts with Goku as a kid, and then Dragon Ball Z, he's already, you know, he's grown up, and then he has a child, and then that kid grows up throughout Z, and there's just kind of this succession and character development that you really didn't see in other shows, and also just the character design itself was very unique looking to me. Like it didn't look, even though I had seen a lot of animes, like it stood out from other anime designs, you know, like
right?
the like if you think about even like Tetsuo from Akira has kind of like that like Saiyan style hair, but he looks totally different than all the Saiyans. Like this, they all have a very very specific kind of facial structure, and like the hair is even bigger than
Yeah,
than
the
other.
very spiky, overdramatic hair,
Yeah,
the bulky muscles, very, very. I feel like very sharp line work with a lot of
yep,
the characters. The faces always, yeah, have that kind of like jagged
mhm,
point to them in a way.
yep,
Even the women characters are very similar.
yeah.
But
But it also even though it was, you know, it was dubbed and like it was not it didn't have like the kind of typical pacing of shows at the time. Like there was something special about how it. I'm having a hard time putting this into words, but it's like it felt different. Like it just felt like the character, like Goku, the character was just like this incredible, complex character, even though he was also simple at the same time. Like he was like, I'm gonna get as strong as I possibly can, to beat the bad guy, like super simple premise. And then like there'd be an episode where he gets like upset about like a bird dying, and he's trying to bring the bird back to life or something, and it's like these like small little moments that show like more humanity or more I don't know, more of the smaller moments of life that aren't normally depicted in the show, where people like shows don't have time for that. And we'll talk about the fact that this show has time for everything, including staring at each other and breathing heavily for 20 minutes straight.
Yeah, Goku is kind of like the ultimate goodness in that like type of personality. I forget what that's called. There's a certain word for it, but I know that he's just like sees the good in everything, wants to see the good in like his decision making. It gives people the benefit of the doubt, sometimes annoyingly so. You're like, come on, if you do this, he's just gonna like go back on what he said.
Yeah.
And then like I mean a lot of other characters like Piccolo is kind of like I don't give a crap attitude.
Yeah, they have a couple of like kind of
Bad
badass
boys.
like Vegeta and Piccolo, and even Trunks to some extent, but he's Vegeta's son, so that kind of makes sense. But
Right.
but yeah, then there's like the pure good characters like Krillin and Gohan.
Yes.
Krillin used to annoy the crap out of me when I was younger. I don't know why I didn't like him, but as I've watched him as an adult, he's like one of my favorite characters. He's so funny. He like brings the humor to the show.
Yeah, Krillin does have a good sense of humor, and Gohan is kind of like the annoying kid. I remember I've been rewatching some of it, and the voice acting gets a little obnoxious with Gohan. A lot of those scenes of him crying or whining,
Daddy, over and over and over again. Daddy. Yeah, not great. But yeah, the idea of like having a sequential, the episodes kind of traveling through time as well as space. Like all the Frieza saga takes place on Namek. A lot of it takes place on Earth. They'll, sometimes they go interdimensional, so the settings are constantly changing. But also, it's like the relationships are changing. Where Bulma, who you had even throughout the whole Dragon Ball series, was with like Yamcha as like a romantic interest. She then ends up, having a kid with Vegeta, and like Chi-Chi and Goku are somehow making babies on the side because Goten eventually comes along later on in the series.
Oh boy.
I don't know if you remember that or
no.
So do you know who Gotenks is? Have you heard of that character?
I thought that was like a combination, like fusion thing.
It is. So it's Trunks when he's a little kid, and then Goten's like I think it's around the Majin Buu saga that Goten becomes a more prominent character, and they I'm pretty sure they just keep reusing the same Gohan voice actor from the kid, because like Goku as a kid in Dragon Ball is the same voice actor as Gohan in Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then when Goten shows up, it's just they just keep like recycling Goku as a kid, basically.
Wow.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. And then they did that in GT as well, because obviously Goku goes back to being a kid in GT.
Yeah, that's amazing. I guess I wanted to talk about just the popularity of the show itself. I mean, there's a lot of animes now that are super popular, but I feel like Dragon Ball Z is something that even like somebody who doesn't really follow anime, you could say Dragon Ball Z to you, like, oh yeah, I know that show. I hate it, but I know it. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those shows that is just like exploded. And I think Dragon Ball Z might be the most popular of the entire series, just because it went on for so long. And then they had multiple movies, which I think you own every movie, don't you? Or almost every.
When I was growing up, I had a few of them. And then when like when they came out with the Blu-ray versions, I bought another like kind of subset. Like I got a couple of them, and recently I was like, you know what? I've never seen all of like every single one. I'm just gonna go on Amazon and just like literally picked them all up, all the ones I didn't have on Blu-ray already.
Yeah.
So I have them all now, but I haven't watched them all. There's a couple that I'm actually really excited to see because it's actually like, you know, Dragon Ball Z I haven't seen yet.
Oh, interesting. Well, one thing that is funny about the show, the popularity of the show when it was coming out when I was like a teenager, is that it was almost looked down upon by like the cooler kids in a way, because I had friends that I actually know that would say like, "Oh, that show, you actually watch that show? It's a cartoon. What are you doing?"
Yeah.
It's like you're in high school and you're watching cartoons. It's like, well, it's not really what it's about. And then like I'd have other friends that were into it, and then like I'd have friends making fun of those friends. And you know, like when you're in like the high school mentality, it's kind of like if you have friends that have varying opinions on stuff, your mind kind of goes back and forth. But it's just like one of those time periods where you're like kind of seen as an outcast if you like a certain thing. So Dragon Ball Z was definitely part of that, I believe. And I don't know if you experienced any of that, but I definitely did.
Well, it actually goes back to one of the things we were talking about with the last episode we did, where we're talking about Pokemon and how like Pokemon was kind of ostracized. And I think that what you're talking about has kind of got a couple different layers to it, because there's like the average person kind of perceiving you for liking Dragon Ball Z who doesn't like any anime, and they're like, okay, that's just weird just because it's a cartoon. Whether you like whether you were like, you know, touting Ninja Scroll or like Princess Mononoke or some kind of like, you know, magnum opus anime or Dragon Ball Z, they equate them as the exact same thing. And then there was like the anime purists that were like, Dragon Ball Z is too easy to like. So, you know, you're not like cool enough in the anime spectrum because you picked like the easy one to like kind of thing. And I think that there was some kids that I knew that were kind of like that, like, oh, I don't like that kind of anime. I only watch like this kind of anime.
Like Dragon Ball Z, you got to get on my level, man. Ninja Scroll,
Yeah.
Ghost in the Shell, Samurai Pizza Cats. I mean, come on now.
Ronin Warriors.
Samurai Pizza Cats, that was another show I remember watching. I forgot about that altogether because that came out pretty early on, and was totally anime, super anime.
So I think that there was that kind of and I think some of it was like born from what I was talking about with the Pokemon thing, where because I actually experienced a little bit with the Pokemon. Like you'd be like, oh, I like anime, and the average person's going to be like, oh, you mean like Pokemon? It's like, no, not like Pokemon at all. And like maybe some of these kids who felt like they had this really, you know, exquisite, refined taste in anime, you know, someone would be like, oh, you like Dragon Ball Z? It's like, no, not like that. You know, it's like certain music was like that too, where you'd just be like, oh, you know, oh, you listen to metal? Oh, you like Metallica? It's like, no, not Metallica. It's too easy to like. It's too mainstream.
Metallica, are you kidding me? No Leaf Clover. It's like everybody's trying to one-step each other in their knowledge base and the coolness factor of oh, you haven't heard of this anime? What are you crazy? You're still stuck on DBZ? I surpassed that 3 levels ago. But yeah,
I don't think you and I really got caught up in that as kids. Like one of the reasons I think why we became friends was because it was just like, oh, like I like this stuff, you like that stuff, we know these things. Like we would introduce each other to stuff and be like, oh, okay, like we like these things. It wasn't like this I don't know, it wasn't like competitive in that way, but I definitely knew a lot of kids that was kind of how they experienced the world around them, where it was just like, I don't want to you know, I'm not going to participate in this because it's too mainstream, or, you know, like I think we probably collectively did that with a couple of things, like, oh, this is, you know, because I think it's just the nature of like, as you're trying to define your identity, you want to have something that's like unique. But I think both of us very openly, like, I mean, like I said, when we met each other, we're like sitting there, like printing in the library, like, hey, everybody, look at this idiot.
I think the biggest example for me would be clothing. I think that was like the mainstream thing I avoided for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, I did get into some of it just through friends that were into certain brands, but I remember, just on a side note, I remember being made fun of in high school because I didn't know what Banana Republic was. It's like, what is that? I never heard of that.
Doesn't even sound like a real thing. So
So it's like, okay, Banana Republic. I guess that's a place to shop. But anyway, Yeah. It was a weird time frame to like things and find other people that like things. I think that's what was so unique about meeting you was we did like all these things and it was just like, yahoo, somebody likes the dumb shit I like. You know?
Yeah, that idea of like discovering something separately and then coming together and realizing you have that in common is like really special.
Oh, absolutely.
And then there's been a couple of things that you and I have kind of discovered together along the way, or like maybe like one of us saw it a day before the other kind of thing. We just kind of like I think about like a lot of the Adult Swim stuff.
Yeah.
Was kind of like that, where it'd be kind of back and forth and like introducing each other to things, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Anyway,
Definitely. Wow.
but yeah, so should we talk about some notable moments in the show that kind of like stood out for us? Or-
Sure. I think a lot of the voice acting was very notable in as an overarching because you have, and I brought this up to you, the Ocean dub, which is I think it's popularly referred to as the original dubbing before Funimation started changing the actors and redubbing it. But I specifically noticed a lot of dialogue shifts when they started redubbing, and a lot of like Vegeta's lines I enjoy better as the original dubbing. My main example would be his Gallic gunfire when they're charging that up. For some reason they took out the fire part when they did the regular dubbing, and so it's just like Gallic gun, and then that's it. And so where it's like, Gallic gunfire, and then he shoots it. But yeah, and just like the silly dialogue, like that little, what's the little samurai dude who tries to like take all the fame?
Yajirobe.
Yajirobe. He's like, oh, I wish I ate more jelly donuts. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, one quote I remember was when Vegeta and Nappa landed, and they're like, and all the citizens are standing around, and a few of them say, "Oh, should we call the government?" And the other person says, "No, they'll just say it's a weather balloon." Like, what? Like, who's gonna get that reference as a kid? It's
Oh, that's awesome.
such a deep cut.
Yeah, it
Like,
is. It is.
Jumping to alien conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I didn't even know about the multiple dubs until you told me the other day, which is crazy. So I think I must be so I'm watching it right now on Blu-ray. It's definitely Funimation, so it has to be the Funimation dub.
Yeah, I recently I actually subscribed to the Funimation just because I want to rewatch. I actually want to watch the entire thing since I never really finished it, and it is different. Like this is not the original dubbing that I'm hearing. Because if you go to YouTube and just Google Ocean dub and then pick a scene and compare them, you'll notice the difference. Vegeta's voice especially, and Goku actually. I think Goku gets a little bit more. I don't like the redubbing as well. It just sounds a little whinier at some points. And Vegeta is a little, I don't know. It just changes, and I think I'm just. Part of it is nostalgia for the Ocean dub, just because that's how I originally saw it when it was first airing. So it just has that impact to it. But yeah, I recently noticed that on the Funimation website, and they have it all uncut, which is nice. And I haven't really seen a lot of the uncut stuff either.
There's a lot of middle fingers.
Oh really?
Yeah, there's a lot of like just like I was watching in Cell Saga, and somebody comes along, and the newscaster who's supporting Mr. Satan doesn't like it, and he flips off. I think he flips Goku off. He's like, like you're not starting first or something like that. And he like throws him the bird.
Wow.
And there's like a couple of I think in the Broly movies, Trunks actually, yeah. So in the Broly movies they show I think Trunks and Goten do fusion as well. But I remember them like flipping little kid fingers, and I was like, wow, they're like 10 years old, like flipping the bird,
tongue sticking out like.
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing I remember about censorship was when it was airing in America, when they tried to censor something, you can clearly tell because it was like they put a layer on top of the animation, and that layer is like shifts as the other thing's moving. So you have this object,
Oh,
and then like that the top layer is kind of like shifting to cover up like either like a nudity or like blood or violence. I always thought that was kind of funny. I was like, why does that look different? Like, oh, they're probably trying to censor that, or it's kind of silly.
yeah. They even when like the blood coming out of the mouth, they would actually censor that.
They usually, I feel like they just blackened it a lot of times, or they like put like a shading over it to dark, make it just look like a like dirt bruise or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember I recently rewatched the Raditz scene where he gets killed with the special beam cannon. And I'm like, oh gosh, it's super violent. You just see like
Yeah.
the blood coming out of him, and whoo, and then messing around, man.
Yeah. They those like moments where somebody would die or there'd be like some kind of like mega attack, like they would take their time with it to the point, like in some cases it would be frustrating how long they were taking with it, but in other cases I really feel like they nailed it in a way where you actually really got to feel the impact of that moment. It was almost in real time. I mean, I remember there being one part of the series where Goku's healing. Vegeta puts him in like some kind of like chamber that the Frieza force would use to heal. And he was supposed to be in there for 1 hour. And there's straight up like 15 episodes where he's in this thing. It's just like
the
how
Bacta
is this?
tank from Star Wars.
Yeah. It's like, how is this longer than real time that this is happening? It's like,
Yeah, it's cool. It's interesting because I was skimming through Funimation's website because they show like the thumbnail and just like how many filler episodes and the fact that he's on this, like, imagine as a kid seeing Goku trying to get to King Kai through this friggin' snake trail, and every episode he's just like, oh, I'm running in the snake. Oh, I met the muscle guys. Oh, I met the snake cleaner guy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh my goodness, the pain that we suffered to get to like the more exciting bits.
Yeah, the only cool part on Snake Way is when he stumbles upon, he thinks he's gotten to the end of Snake Way, and he ends up at like this mansion, and it's got a bunch of like snake women in it, and they try to like basically seduce him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then like he realizes like halfway through what's happening, and then it's all like a mirage, and it turns into this like giant snake that's like chasing him through the sky.
Oh geez.
Yeah, so that episode was pretty cool, but
I wonder if
there's a lot of beauty on it.
I wonder if they cut a lot of those episodes if they thought they were too risky or whatever.
I think that one in particular definitely was. There's a lot of like innuendos and stuff in it.
Wow.
There was also the episode where Piccolo and Goku need to get a driver's license because Chi-Chi is sick and tired of bringing the groceries, like walking the groceries home. So she wants Goku to get a car.
That must be later on.
It's actually, I think it's
when they all become friends.
I think it's in between the Frieza saga and the Android saga. It's like right after Frieza.
Oh really?
They didn't know what to do while they're waiting for the androids to show up, so they just put that episode in there. But that another good point. All the enemies in the show become friends.
Yeah.
Like the Saiyans come to Earth, and it's like it's D-Day. Like the whole Earth's going to get destroyed, and then suddenly Vegeta's like on the team.
Yeah. I'm curious to watch that again. Do you remember how that even happens? It just kind of like happens.
It's very gradual. Like there's like a few. It's like, it's convenient to team up because we need to beat Frieza, and then it's like convenient for Vegeta to stick around because he wants to challenge Kakarot, and then it's convenient for Vegeta to continue to stick around because Kakarot and him are competing to get stronger.
Right.
But it never really kind of hits any type of. I mean, even in Super, it's still like, oh, Kakarot, like you're not going to be stronger than me. Like I'm going to be the stronger. It's like, wow, you've carried this like torch for 30 years.
They just keep going back and forth about like trying to get better than each other. That's right.
But the one that bothers me the most, I think, is Piccolo, because the whole idea the enemy in Dragon Ball is King Piccolo. It's like the main crescendo at the end of the series, and then he splits. Or Kami and Piccolo split, right? So like that's where the evil King Piccolo, I think, comes from. And then in Dragon Ball Z, like Piccolo becomes a friend to everybody like almost immediately. Like he ends up training Gohan like very, very early on. It was a very similar kind of thing where like they show Piccolo with the Z fighters and they're like, Piccolo, like he's a bad dude and blah 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 blah. And then like
Piccolo, are you
like, then
coming
the-
over for dinner tonight?
Then the Saiyans are gonna show up and it's like, oh shit, we better join forces. And then it's like, oh, friends. And I think even it goes all the way. I mean, the androids, they become like Krillin ends up romantically involved with Android 18. I don't know if you know that or not. I don't know if you got that far in the series, but
Piccolo gets romantically involved?
no, Krillin.
Oh, Krillin,
and
yeah, I know
Android 18.
that. And they have a kid.
Yeah.
Right?
And then
he wishes her to be human or something.
oh yeah, I think you're right. I think he does do something like that. So there's like, that frenemy situation that happens, and then there's even later on, I believe they end up asking for Frieza's help in the newest series where they team up with Frieza to do like the world martial art tournament or something like that.
They actually team up.
It's like it was like a tentative kind of thing, or like or tenuous. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but
Maybe
yeah, it was.
Akira Toriyama's trying to tell us something, man. You got to be friends with your enemies and enemies with your friends sometimes. Wait, Piccolo destroys the pyramids.
Oh yeah, he's like, whoops, sorry.
Whoops, I gotta control my power better. Like you just destroyed one of the 7 wonders of the world, you fool.
I know, he's just like
Destroying
playing with
the moon. He's destroying the pyramids. What is he gonna do to take care of the Earth while you're at it?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Can we also talk about if you actually destroyed the moon, that it would basically send the Earth into
like hell,
gravitational chaos?
Yeah. The tides would like overflow or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was always kind of silly. I feel like I even knew then that was not going to work out.
But yeah,
oh, I wrote down a funny quote that Raditz says to Piccolo, and when Raditz has Goku pinned and he's beating down Goku after Goku released him because he's so good, he had his tail and he released him. And I love when he released the tail. It's like, and then Raditz is like, you fool. But anyway, and then Piccolo's like, oh, I don't know what to do. And Raditz looks at him, he's like, why so blue, Green Man? Is it because you're too powerless to help your friend, or is it because you're just plain ugly? Actually, when he says ugly, he kind of like drags. He's plain ugly. like he sounds like what is the Wild West actor guy? Oh my god, how can I think of his name?
Charlton Heston.
What the heck is his name?
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood. Thank you. It's like kind of sounds like Clint Eastwood. Wow. Pepperoni, Tutti Frutti. Those are fun quotes from that. I think that's from the movie, right? One of the movies.
I think it's Dead Zone. I think it's Dead Zone. I think that's the Garlic Jr. sidekicks. Yeah.
I tried to find it online, but I couldn't find that when he exactly says that. So I wonder if that was like a specific dubbing and they changed it or something, but maybe not.
Oh, that'll be interesting, actually. That's a good point. When I watch the movies, I wonder if they're going to be totally different dubbings than what I'd seen.
I'm curious. You should watch that one and let me know if they say that. Yeah. Vegeta means vegetable. You needed to share this?
Vegeta. Well, I just think it's funny that
Vegeta? Why did you say that? Vegeta.
No, Vegeta. In Japanese.
Is his name actually supposed to be pronounced Vahita?
I think it's Bahita with a B. B as in boy.
What is Bahita?
Vegetable.
Oh.
Hey, how's it going?
The same?
No, it's not spelled.
This sucks. Never mind.
Anyway. But I just thought it was funny that the reason why I put that in there is because I think it's cool that there's like they don't take the show too seriously. Like Vegeta's like the super badass character, he's super tough, he's constantly being sarcastic, he's kind of a bit of an a-hole, and then like he's named after vegetable, which is like, I don't know, that's kind of funny. The dichotomy is hilarious to me.
All the names are pretty interesting, huh? What is Goku? I feel like they each have to have a specific meaning, right?
You would think, yeah. I don't know. I think Goku and Gohan are more kind of traditional. But I think it's a lot of like the like Raditz, like pretty close to Radish.
Radish.
Yeah. I think it's like the offshoot characters got kind of goofy names.
Yeah, look at this. I just Googled Goku name meaning. The name Goku is a boy's name of Japanese origin, meaning aware of emptiness. That's deep, man.
Oh, see, I told you, he's the one.
Yeah. Got the bow staff. Doesn't use the bow staff anymore, huh? Got rid of that?
No.
Didn't like it.
Well, then he also had flying Nimbus, and then he learned how to fly. All the
That
characters
was
fly.
another topic you wrote down about. They just
Yeah.
were able to fly somehow.
They just fly.
It's got to be a chi thing, right? They're using their chi to float
Yeah.
around.
But I think it's funny, like as a kid or even as a teenager, when I was watching, I was like, oh yeah, that's how they get around. Like they all just like fly everywhere. It's like, hey, let's go over here, and they all just like get together in the sky and like fly around.
They all can fly, huh?
Yeah, even Yamcha and Tien and stuff. Chaozu, like what even is Chaozu? He flies.
Yeah, what is Chaozu? But the miserable pile of secrets. Even doesn't his wife even fly?
I don't think Chi-Chi. Oh, maybe Chi-Chi can fly. Bulma can't fly. I know Bulma can't fly.
Bulma, yeah. She uses the capsule core.
Yeah.
Core.
Yajirobe can't fly because he always comes up in like a air car kind of thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he always has the air cars. You can tune
Everyone else can
yeah,
fly.
but you can't tune a fish.
Yeah, there's a couple of moments in the show that
That reminds
I
me.
don't even know what like style of humor you would call that. It's just weird. Like it's just
so
totally
weird.
bizarre.
It's hilarious. I think that's the
Yeah.
type of humor. It's like so like not funny that it's ridiculous. It becomes funny in a way. Especially when Goku gets there, he cracked because the whole King Kai wants to hear a joke.
Yes.
Like
or a train.
yeah, that's part of the training. And I forget what Goku says. Why didn't the chicken? How did the chicken get to the other side of the road or something? It was bad, but that brings up another thing I wanted to mention. The animation styling. I feel like this is a time capsule of how I kind of wish it stayed because I felt like you could just tell they put so much time into it because I liked it when you have like the dramatic moments and they shift the background to like this watercolor piece almost, and it's just like the slow shifting color. I felt like it's much more artistic in a lot of ways, and I haven't seen too much of Super. I've seen a good amount, but it almost seems too polished a lot of times, and you can kind of tell where there are shortcuts being made.
Definitely.
A lot of it still looks really cool, and there are a lot of cool moments in it, but there's something about seeing like that traditional style that really brings it to life in a way you can't recreate now unless you go back to that.
Yeah. I remember when we were growing up, we were starting to get kind of frustrated with some of the animes that were kind of using CGI too much,
That's
where it was
right,
just like
yeah.
it just took like, and now everything is CGI. You know, like
Some of
even
is getting better, but
It
some
is.
of it is still a good example is that Studio Ghibli came out with their first CG movie, and it looks not good. It's just like you cannot
They don't
capture the level of emotions that those movies capture
right.
in CG unless like you really put a lot of time and effort into the CG. It just didn't look good, but I watched a guy's video talking about it, and it was actually really good. Good
An example I could think of that recently that came out that I think actually used CG pretty well is actually the Berserk movies. I don't know if you saw
really?
those.
I don't
Yeah.
think I have, but I think I've seen some of that animation.
Yeah, it seems like it's used more to like rotate the camera kind of thing and show more of a 3D model of the animation. So like you can tell that there's computers used for those part, but for the most part, a lot of it's still like line drawn, and like you can maybe there's like computers used for some of the coloring, the color
Right.
application animation, but it doesn't. It feel in a way it adds to the style. Whereas I feel like in the early days, what was bothering me about it, I feel like in the early days was like the way the cells would move so smoothly. It like you would just see like the layers of animation in a way that kind of took you out of the immersion of the experience in a way, because it was just so robotically separate, segmented.
Oh yeah, it's so obviously different.
Yeah.
Actually, I just thought of a good example in American animation, the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Have you seen that?
I have.
Dude, that
Unreal.
is an amazing way to do it in a very cool, creative way where you're mixing like this comic book art style with live action. It was so well done. And then there was that movie. This is a series you like where they go into like a VR world almost, or not VR, but they're what the heck? Gantz.
Oh, Gantz, yeah.
That
I
film
love
was
that.
CG, right? That was really pretty well done.
Gantz Zero, yeah, that
Gantz
is
Zero.
absolutely brilliant, and that like really captured a lot of the emotions of the full on anime. That's a manga I would love to read because I feel like that's something that goes a lot deeper than than the anime does or than the movie does. But that what a cool storyline.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah,
but yeah,
I think just going back to it, I mean, yeah, just the animation of that time was just very cool, and how they slowed down frames when they wanted to show something more uh, dramatically, I guess. Uh,
yeah, and I think that harkens back a little bit to the pacing that I think again is a double edged sword where you're sitting there like it's like last time on Dragon Ball Z, the characters stare at each other and breathe heavily while they power up for an entire episode.
also, yeah, the narrator is a key part of the series. Next time, Dragon Ball Z. But yeah, there's actually a scene since it's fresh in my head when Raditz is about to fight Piccolo and Goku for the first time. I actually timed it, how long it is before Goku says, "All right, let's do this." So no more talking. 30 seconds until the first strike is made. And Goku just says, "Let's do this." They don't talk. They show like nature. They show a butterfly. They show a flower moving. They show Raditz standing like empowering pose, looking down, and then they finally start to show Goku and Piccolo. Raditz is like, no, no, no. But yeah, it's like 30 seconds. I was like, okay. So they're all about. I mean, I get they're trying to fill a void, like a time frame too, but yeah, it can drag out.
It definitely can drag out. I think they also really are trying to, like, even at that time. I mean, you got to think like, what would you say? It took 7 years for it to get here. So like the pacing of shows by the time we were watching it was already faster. So it was already like out of time from when we were experiencing it. But I think there is something to be said about some of the special moments that pacing actually adds to it. Where I almost like when I watched Goku become Super Saiyan for the first time in the Frieza saga. Which again, you got to remember, we watched it, we got almost there, we had to rewatch it. I think that happened twice before we actually got to see the episode where he actually turned Super Saiyan, and I wanted that moment to drag out longer. Like I wanted to feel that payoff from all the many hours of episodes I had watched, where you hear Super Saiyan, people think they're a Super Saiyan, and then you finally get to see Goku turns Super Saiyan after the death of Krillin,
right?
And it just has that intense gravity. And Goku's like super dead serious throughout it. Like he's usually like kind of like half jokey or whatever. He's just like all business during that scene, which is very emotionally impacting.
Oh yeah, when you first turned Super Saiyan, that's insane. But you're definitely right about the pacing. It does allow you to kind of it adds like a certain amount of realism and like severity. You're just like kind of like, what's gonna happen? Is this so you're kind of like almost kind of at the edge of your seat waiting for the next moment, and they're kind of like teasing you, and then when it finally hits, you're like, oh yeah, here we go. Goku's at it again. I just looked up some other shows that came out in '96. Beast Wars was one of them.
Oh, I love that.
Dexter's
show.
Laboratory around this time.
Another favorite of mine.
Gargoyles.
That show was very, very. That was like the level up from Batman animated series. I feel like Batman animated series was very dark, but Gargoyles took it even to another level.
Yeah, Gargoyles. I mean, that was the same studio, right? Because they looked like the same exact art style.
I believe it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Reboot was out in '94. Remember that?
Amazing show.
Yeah.
Hexadecimal and Megabyte were the The enemies in that. Which as a kid, like
Which was
I just
totally
felt
went over
like-
my head. Yeah, as
Yeah.
a kid, I'm like, what? That was cool. Oh, Street Sharks too, but that was '94, but that ran for three years or 3 seasons.
Yeah. That was like in the lieu of all the turtle ripoffs that were coming out. They're like, what if we just made a couple of anthropomorphic guys who fight stuff?
What else can we make that's weird and they want to fight crime, but they do it in a fun way? The Street Sharks. There's like turtles, but sharks.
Get it?
They can swim through the streets, and their shark fins come up through the streets. Genius.
Yeah.
Toys, by
Brilliant.
the way, were amazing for that. But
I never had those.
I just remember them being cool. I might have had one of them. Trunks shows up. Gohan dies.
Oh yeah, that's during the history of Trunks. That was another like epic moment in the series where like the rain's coming down. Gohan is like face down dead in like a puddle from the androids killing him, and Trunks just loses his mind out of anger and turns Super Saiyan for the first time. He's like,
Is that when he gets
probably
like stabbed through, or is that somebody else? Was that Yamcha? I remember a scene of like the bearded.
a lot of people get stabbed through.
That's
but
true.
Frieza does that to like one of his own guys.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's a popular move.
Yeah. Right through the chest. Yeah, I don't remember how he dies. I remember him losing his arm.
Oh, Gohan?
Yeah, Gohan has one arm in the movie. And then
Oh, this is the movie one.
yeah, it's History of Trunks is the movie.
Oh.
But yeah, that was a really epic moment. And again, like kind of that whole movie had a darker tone to it. There was a lot of like the androids like joyriding around and like killing people, and it was like, oh, I hit this pedestrian 10 points, and it was like I don't know, it was just more, it was grim because they were literally just like these two androids just like killing the entire population of humans. There were no humans left.
Oh,
But there was like a very small amount of them, and that's why Bulma ends up sending Trunks back in a time. It was very Terminator storyline.
Huh.
It was basically Terminator.
yeah, I really need to watch those movies. I only really remember Tree of Might, which I loved. And I love I love it a lot because it's still early, so his only power is the Kaioken
Yeah.
technique. Kaioken!
Yep.
Kaioken! Times 100! Like he eats the apple. And then that's when he's fighting like his his doppelganger, pretty much, right?
Yep.
So at that point, and he's got the cool scout thing on, he's got the armor. So yeah, I remember that being really cool. I don't remember seeing any other ones, but I really need to see those.
I think World's Strongest was just, so I think Dead Zone, Tree of Might, and World's Strongest were the first three. Those are the ones that I remember having as a kid. And then after that, a lot of them, they suffered from the same thing that a lot of the series did, where because we were getting it secondhand from Japan in the United States, like it just wasn't coming over here. So like the cooler movies, I never saw those because they just didn't come over here until much later.
Where the
And
bootlegs come into play.
I needed to go to those bootleg things. And then there's like the history, or not history, but there's Bardock, I think, which is Goku's father. There's like whole.
Okay, actually, I think I may have seen that one. I think I actually saw the Garlic Junior Saga too, or whatever that was called.
Yeah,
Dead Zone.
that's Dead Zone. Yeah, Garlic Junior Saga actually is in Dragon Ball Z, and it's like a mini saga in between Frieza and the androids. There's like a whole bunch of slew of like filler episodes, between like or from Goku getting his driver license to the Garlic Jr. like little mini series kind of thing.
Well, anything else you want to touch on here before we wrap up? I saw a couple things you mentioned. Finally seeing the Majin Buu saga, which I never really saw, and how exciting it was.
Yeah, I would hear like rumors of like, other kids who like either maybe they got bootlegs, or they just had access somehow to, like, maybe it was even online where they were downloading episodes, and I was like, I don't know how to use the internet yet. they were getting ahead and they were seeing stuff like, oh, you guys see this, and I would get excited, or you look for like Google image search, or probably Yahoo image searches back then, where you'd like see these characters, like, who are these characters, like I can't wait to see like what these people are about, or like what this storyline's about. And then you'd finally get to see it on Toonami or whatever, and it was just so cool to like the same experience you had when you were describing going to the convention. You go to the table and you see all this stuff. You're like, I'm finally going to get to unlock the secrets of the next part of the storyline, kind of thing. It was just really exciting. I remember the first thing that really happened with actually was Trunks killing Frieza. So Trunks comes back from the future for the first time. Frieza's coming back to Earth at the same time, and Trunks is there to tell Goku and the Z Fighters about the androids coming. And it just happens to line up, and he just wipes Frieza out like it's nothing.
Yeah,
then,
classic. Yeah. Slices him up,
and then he like a single blast, just like the city.
What was funny about it, he does that, and then he's like, he like almost looks away and does the blast, like,
yeah.
Hey, dude. I think a lot of the stuff that didn't come to America, we did get from the internet, because it goes back to how we met. I would print stuff out and cut it out and put it on my notebooks. So I'd have I remember having that Trunks scene where he's flying up and he's about to come down on Frieza. But that's such a cool frame. And I remember cutting it out, putting it on my notebook. I remember drawing Majin Buu. I used to try to draw in DBZ style too. That's a whole other thing. I used to just I never paid attention in school. Are you kidding me? I'm drawing DBZ. I
got drawings to do.
Yeah, Trunks, DB, like every character I would try to draw or try to create a character, my own character. But yeah, it's funny because I knew a lot of these characters that I never even saw the episodes for. So like Majin Buu or like Cell. I think Cell was another one I had printed and put on one of my notebooks. Man, yeah.
They were just so mysterious because you didn't know anything other than just seeing the character designs. Like, who are these characters? They look so cool.
Yeah,
exactly. But you don't know anything about them, kind of thing. So
what is this bug character? This green spotted bug.
And when you finally learn what Cell's about, it's a really cool concept. This idea of like this organism that basically absorbs and like basically takes on the cells of that organism and then has the ability. So like he gets some cells from Piccolo and then he could regenerate. He gets some cells from Goku so he can do the Kamehameha wave. Like it's kind of a cool concept. Yeah.
I didn't even realize. I mean, I think I do know that he would suck up people dry, right? Or
yeah,
put them in his stinger.
Yeah, he would eat them with his butt tail.
Turn into raisins. I didn't realize he was taking his powers, but I guess I must have realized because he does do the Kamehameha.
Yeah, that's the whole key of his name, is that he's taking the cells of other people to then become like those powers.
Makes sense. And now the whole thing ends with Majin Buu, right? Is that what you said? That's like
the whole series ends with Majin Buu, and then there's some kind of weird reincarnation of Majin Buu. It like ends up with like this little kid, and then I think they just throw that away when you get to GT. Like it's just
don't even mention it.
I think I do think he gets mentioned. He's like still around. I think he's actually even around in the beginning of Super. I forget now, honestly. I need to rewatch Super again already.
Because I know that even Majin Buu becomes a friend or a version of Majin Buu, like the giant one.
Yeah, he splits. There's another thing where
they split again. Okay, just like Piccolo.
Yeah. When instead of because of course you always have to do transformations into like the cooler version. Like Frieza starts out very kind of like, I don't know, silly looking, and then he tries to get like sleek by the end of his last transformation. With Buu, the way they did it he starts off as like the rotund Majin Buu who loves pudding and chocolate and everything, and he is like legit like the threat, and then something happens. I think he like overheats or something, and he splits off. The evil part comes off him, and the evil part is like this super slick Majin Buu that's like the ultimate enemy that they have to defeat, and then he becomes basically the same power level but like friendly, and he ends up like friending with Mr. Satan, which is a whole separate storyline that I love. I don't know like what about it is so special about those two, but like by themselves they're kind of like stupid characters, but their relationship and like the little dog they have and stuff, I don't know if you remember any of this, but
I don't know much about that relationship, but I do know from Super that that Boo is dumb and likes to eat a lot of food. Gets angry easily.
does.
But
Yeah.
he's funny. I enjoy it.
Yeah, if you do rewatch Z, when you get up to the point like later in the Majin Buu saga, you'll really enjoy that part where it's like it's again like kind of what makes the show special is there's like this goodness of humanity aspect or like this, it's not just about fighting. They take the time to kind of like show something
Right.
emotional.
Right.
So yeah, show's amazing.
It was a great show. I mean, it was one of like the big events of entertainment in my life in terms of entertainment, for sure. And yeah, I mean, I'm clearly still into it today. You are I feel like even more so than me because you've collected a lot of the figures and collect a lot of the mangas, I think too, right? Don't you have a lot of the original mangas?
I have a few of them. I don't have
Oh.
I haven't gone crazy with like all the volumes yet, but I did. There was a couple of them that were like full color versions, and for some reason I get excited when manga's in
Yeah.
color. So rare.
I'm
So I grab some of those.
Oh yeah, cool. I'm definitely getting excited to get back into the show and actually watch it in its full entirety. Um, because I've never really actually done that. I feel like a lot of when it was coming out, it was jumping around. I'm sure there were a lot of episodes. There are definitely a lot of episodes I missed. So that'll be fun to go into and watch Super too at some point. I'm kind of curious about that.
Yeah, it's definitely cool to watch as an adult, just because I think you look at it with very different eyes. Like what you're actually trying to get out of it is different.
That's true. Yeah.
After watching so many movies and so many storylines and so many kind of like literary tropes being used, whatever, you see the show very differently. Where it's like, even though the themes and like the way that they write the show can be very like samey throughout, where it's just
Yeah.
like get an enemy, get strong, beat that enemy becomes friend. All right, next enemy comes, get strong, beat that enemy becomes friend. Like even though they're doing that, they're giving you so much in between, and there's so much special about it in between that like none of that matters.
Right.
Because I feel like I might have, like as a kid, I actually got a little frustrated with that formula. And I was like, this is stupid. It's just the same thing over and over and over again. And I was missing out on some of that, like some of the humor and some of like the relationship building between the characters and like some of that stuff that I wasn't into as a teenager.
Yeah, there's some characters I don't even remember Launch that really, and that she's in some of the episodes.
What
Launch.
character is it?
Launch?
I have no idea who that is.
He has like a machine gun. I think that's her
no.
name. She hangs out with Tien at one point, apparently.
Oh, maybe I
When she sneezes, she turns nice.
Oh yeah, she's in like 1 or 2 episodes.
Oh, is that it? I saw the one episode.
Yeah.
She's in then. I think she's bigger in Dragon Ball, the regular.
I think she was a carryover character that they were like, hey, remember her? And then we're not going to use her this time.
That's the last.
Yeah, she like robs a bank, right? Like she robs a bank and then she sneezes.
She wants Tien. She's like trying to get Tien to rob a bank because he has powers with her. She gets mad. And so I love it when she goes mad and she just starts shooting everything with her Uzi. Like Balma shows up and he starts shooting at the ship she's in. I'm like, what? You've gone mad.
Yeah, super cool.
But then, maybe we can end on this, but I thought of it just now, is like how iconic of an art style is, because a lot of anime can look pretty similar, but he created a style that if you were to try to recreate it, it would literally just be like like you're copying this unique style. Because like you brought up Dragon Quest, and that's obviously Akira Toriyama, and I know now he probably has a whole studio of people doing that style, just like Simpsons has a whole studio of people doing that style. But he just like, because it's just the way it looks. You don't see that in any other anime now. So it's like he really wanted to try and create something that stood out, looked different. Because a lot of animes you can kind of put next to each other and you're like, oh, those look very similar.
Totally.
And on a lot of them you can, and a lot of them do actually recreate their own style themselves. But
Yeah, I think I mentioned that briefly earlier, that that was one of the draws of like, why should I check this out? Because it looked so different. Like the characters just looked so different than anything I'd ever seen before, and it almost entices you to be like, what's this about? Like
yeah,
I feel like a lot of the animes that I watch, like I think you recently recommended Attack on Titan.
yes,
Um, when I look at that from the outside, not knowing anything about it, I'm like, there's nothing about it that
boring.
yeah, there's nothing about it that stands out. It's like, oh, so they're giant like humanoids. It looks like I don't know what the fair mix is, but like for some reason, like the Titans just remind me of like Evangelions without their armor. Like they're just like these organism kind of things, like
They're
they're
kind of
wild.
mindless in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then the actual characters are just like, it's that typical like, hey, I'm the guy. Like, oh, we should go and do things. Let's fight.
Everyone says you're the guy. Well, I want to be the guy too.
Nah, you're just a kid.
You're just maybe when you're older. Yeah, no, it's true. And I think it was so impactful to the point is that when you saw that style being used, like in Dragon Quest or Chrono Trigger, you're like, I want to play that because that's cool. I know that style. That's
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z. There's something cool going on. He's got a sword. He's got a
Yeah.
little dragon friend. Yeah, I remember seeing like different games that would come out on like PlayStation and like that had that similar style, and you'd be like, oh man, I want to play this. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely in a league of its own. And even though it is very popular and it's, a big part of like pop culture, and even like the average person kind of knows what Dragon Ball Z is because there's merchandising everywhere. There's a reason why it's so popular. It's very special, and it's still, to this day. I mean, obviously part of it's nostalgia, but it still stands the test of time this many years later. So
I'm definitely living proof since I'm getting back into it right now.
yeah, I'm excited for you to actually go all the way through, like start to finish, fill in the gaps and stuff you didn't see, and then also just like experience it as an adult. It's so much different than because there's so much nostalgia built in, as well as kind of like new things that you pick up on, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into it and even explore what Funimation has to offer. It seems like they have a lot of stuff on there, but we'll see.
Tom,
We have Robot of the Week.
And it's actually
what do we have this week? And
it's a reference we made last time.
that's right. Oh, it's Voltron,
Defender of the Universe.
Yeah, this guy was awesome growing up. I remember not being super into Voltron, but enough that if I knew about him and he was a robot that had different pieces that put together the giant robot. And what is there not to love when you're a child and you see that for the first time and you're like, yeah, this is cool. He's got a giant sword and he's fighting in space. Are you kidding me? It doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, it's a couple different like childhood things for me that I just absolutely loved. Like the fact that there were like figures that went inside vehicles, and then the fact that those vehicles then made a larger figure. I mean, that's just yeah
that aspect of it. And I don't even know if I even owned the full set, but I remember having a couple of the lions and that I could play with, but I don't know if I actually had the full deal, because I'm pretty sure they sold them all separately, right? And then you kind of combine them.
Yeah, I think they even sold the figures separately.
Oh yeah.
So you'd have to buy the lion and the corresponding figure, and basically make your parents poor by the end of Voltron being complete.
Yeah. And this thing, what did this run in the 80s? I'm assuming it was like an 80s show.
Yeah, it would have been it probably would have been like that magical time period of like 84 when like Transformers, all that stuff was like coming online.
Very magical.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the combiner robot thing was really cool. And I actually remember having like an adverse reaction to Power Rangers when it came out, because I was like, this is like a Voltron ripoff. And then like I was like, and also for some reason I had this problem with the fact that Voltron was all made out of lions, which was kind of this cool thematic thing. but like Power Rangers, the Zoids were, or I think it was Zoids, right? They were
Yep.
they were built out of like a hodgepodge of like it's an elephant dinosaur.
Nobody liked the elephant. Nobody wanted to be the elephant. I think there was a T-Rex, maybe a T-Rex, and I don't know. There were so many variants to Power Rangers.
True.
There could have been. I can't remember their original lineup, but Stegosaurus, Triceratops.
Yeah, I think there was a Triceratops. Anyway, so I do have a Voltron to show. This is my favorite Voltron release they've ever done. Bandai, I forget, Sola Chugokin is the series that they do like really high end like giant robot figures. So this is the Voltron. He is
I want to see this bad boy. Oh, geez.
all die cast metal.
The sword is metal.
No, actually the sword is plastic. I guess it's not all die cast metal. A lot of like all the like legs and stuff are metal. The core, I believe, of the like this is metal. The Black Lion's mostly metal, I feel like, except for this part's all kind of plastic or whatever, but he's so cool looking. The detail on the face is amazing. It's all like that.
Look at that shine. I always loved his face. He's got the lion head and just like this very simple robotic like mask, steel mask with the yellow eyes.
Yeah, so
that's awesome. Those all come apart in that figure.
Yeah, so because I'm a crazy person and I display a lot of this stuff, I actually have the lions as well separate. So I actually have each one of the lions. This is what they kind of look like by themselves. So yeah, really
so
cool.
essentially you have two Voltrons.
Yes, I have two Voltrons, and then I put basically the robot in the back, then I have all the lions in the front. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They can like sit like actual cats, which is kind of neat. and then these guys are like they're so different because they're so small. But these are the ones that actually make up the arms. But yeah, super cool.
That's awesome. Well, I have a Voltron too. Do you want to see
him?
Do you want to see my Voltron?
I want to see your Voltron.
So this Voltron is not nearly as impressive. And when I bought it, I thought I was getting the original Voltron, which still kind of looks like it, but you'll see in a second why it isn't.
Whoa, it's big.
It's a pop.
Oh, sick. That's awesome.
So this one is actually based off the new show that came out, what is it, like a few years ago?
Yeah, anime style. Well, I guess they're both anime style, but
yeah, and I'm not
that's cool.
If that show, because you can see the sword is different. And I don't know if he had these wings on the back. But
the chest piece as well, having that kind of Evangelion style, like sleek mid body, like something that stands out as a different design as well.
Yeah.
Instead of having like the blocky, old 80s robot, he's like much more like streamlined, and he's an in shape robot basically. Got that sweet V from going to the gym.
He's been working out. He uses moons as weights, baby.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool pop figure. I'm not a huge fan of the pop figures, but I like the ones that look really unique like that.
Yeah, and this one is like the upscaled one compared to like, well, you know what the other ones look like. This one's like, his head can go wee.
Whoa. They can see bad guys from behind.
Yeah. Well, that's the Voltron robot of the week. So yeah, I think that's it, man.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Peace out.